Hello, somebody. Welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I'm your host, JB, your sports guy. We got a great show for you guys today. I'm joined by my two co-hosts. You catch them both on CrescentCitySports.com. We got VK Jones and George Peppers. What's up, guys?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you
Not too
being on the
much.
show. And like, share, tag, and subscribe to the Hash It Out Show on all social media platforms.
Most definitely. We got a big time special guest. This guy here played in the NFL for many years, was a big LSU star. He's on that defensive line as a defensive tackle. Played his high school ball right there, West Jeff. He's a rapper. He's a broadcaster. He's an entrepreneur. He's everything in my eyes. He's always busy. The one, the only, Mr. Marlon Favorite. Big Fave. What's going on, man?
JB, man, what's up, man? VK, what's happening? GP, what's good, man? Thank y'all so much for having me on. Look, just out here,
What's up?
I had to do a little grilling, so I came out here and hopped on the grill real quick. So excuse me, y'all, if I look a little grillish. Hello.
All good.
It's all
It's all
good,
to the
man. It's
good.
good to have you on.
big,
No doubt, no
big
doubt.
Fave. Big Fave. So, most everybody knows you for playing on that football field, but who or what was it that got you into playing football?
I would say it started with my older brother Melcow, Favorite Junior. Watching him play growing up and just really having the right mentors around me. I mean, even back in my days, um, you got Coach Paul from Kings Grant. You had, guys like Coach Allen from Ellender Middle School, and then of course the legendary Hank Tierney being under his wing. So it's just always been a part of the fabric, and it's just something that's really been hereditary in terms of the family, and on both sides of my family, both my mother and my father's side, some football players.
Definitely. Um, you played your high school ball, a little bit at Shaw, majority at West Jeff, and I want to go through some stats right quick. Your junior year, 105 tackles, 35 for a loss, 20 sacks. Senior year, 115 tackles, all state, all American, number one defensive tackle in the nation. What was it like playing ball at West Jeff?
Well, it was a great experience going back to public school because I hadn't gone to Shaw for 2 years, and was near the banks of Old Man River, and knowing guys like you and Carlin, and you just think of guys like Marlon Winchester, just going down the line of just the solid guys, and even like my peers like Jeremy and Byron and my cousin Nick. Like it really, when I got to West Jeff, I didn't really know from a friendship standpoint who was gonna be my dogs, because all my people went to Eric. So, shouts out to my dog Naughty B, and rest in peace to Smurf, man. My dog Smurf, Derek
Yeah,
Singleton. Just those two guys, when I first got to West Jeff, made the transition easy. And everything else, the rest was just fell into place. Uh, just for the simple fact of being able to implement the system, and going from for West Jeff to go from 0-10 to 10-0 in 2 seasons just shows you not only the effect of Coach Hank Tierney, but the amount of talent that they had at West Jeff already, man. You bring on coaching, and things could change. So that experience altogether for West Jeff was an excellent experience, and just memories forever.
you speak highly of Coach Hank Tierney. Tell us, like, how Coach Hank Tierney was able to change that culture around at West Jeff.
Well, I think it was, he says this all the time, just before Edna Carr really took off, Coach Hank really was in Algiers heavy, right? Of course, his sister, Coach K, coaching at Norman Park. So he was already familiar with the hood. So
Yes,
it was just an easy transition for him when he got to West Jeff. He already knew the language to speak. Quick story. He probably love to tell this one as well. So my junior year, we went 5-5. We lost our first, few games, and then West Jeff basically went on a 15-0 winning spree. Well, he wanted to wisen up that next year, and we lost a lot of guys to college that '03 class. So like Elvin Freeway Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Curtis, Desmond. I mean Smurf, he graduated. We had lost a big chunk of the defense, but we had a lot of returning starters as well. But we were missing key pieces. So Coach Hank was like, let me go ahead and do a little recruiting on campus, right? So
Yeah.
getting some of the guys, the basketball players like Jeremy Jones and Jonathan Vance and Ivan Padlock Perry, Ivan was already
Padlock.
on the team. He was
Yeah.
coaching over there at Shaw with him, but Ivan knew a lot of the guys too, and guys like Ronald Gardette, like those three guys alone were major. Like that just goes to show you Coach Hank's ability to spot talent. He was able to convince basketball players to come play football. Like he started with the offers. He's like, all right, what offers what offers you have? And those guys were naming like D2 schools, and Coach Hank was like, well, that's no biggie at all. I can most definitely get you guys at a bigger school than that, and he did. All of us went D1. So all the promises he kept, I think Jonathan Vance Crawler, he ended up going to UL. J Rock came to LSU with me. Ronald ended up going to Nickel State with Broderick and the rest of the guys. So I mean, the rest is just pretty much history.
Now I'm gonna ask you this question, and you might not like it, but I gotta bring you back to your last game ever at West Jeff. West Jeff, the 4 seed, first round of playoffs against 29 seed Higgins. Higgins with the big upset. What happened that night?
Well, it wasn't, to be honest with you, it wasn't really about that night. It really was about that week. So when Carver had to forfeit their games, that put us in a different position, right? That instead of playing Fountain Blue, we ended up playing Higgins because we were such a high seed. But the lowest seed that played us after they did the forfeit ended up being Higgins. And you know how hard it is to beat a team. I mean, we legit beat Higgins by 2 scoring touchdowns, and
Right.
we lost by 10 points. I think it was like 12-2. So what I remember mainly about that night, I mean, you couldn't to have an opportunity to go. How can I say this? Play against a team that you just lost the district championship to. So to have that opportunity, you can knock them out of the playoffs. So I felt like we would have went to the state championship because Harmville won it, and Higgins lost to them by 6 points. But
Six
on a
points.
good night, we beat Higgins by 2. So that I think that was really the year. And being a freshman at Shaw going to the state championship before I hadn't experienced that kind of I guess really reignited that potential feeling. But man, it was a tough loss, and we talk about that all the time, guys off of that team.
Yes, indeed. I'm gonna pass it on to VK after this question. You chose to go to LSU. Now I want to know what was it that made you decide LSU? Not that it was maybe your dream school and it's an hour away, but what did Nick Saban tell you in your living room that sold you on LSU?
Well, Nick Saban has the reputation of being extremely transparent. And one thing I remember about Nick that particular time, so he offered me my junior year. So all of us pretty much, excuse me, fellas, I'm messing with this grill real
You
quick.
good, Chief?
A lot of us, like Glenn Dorsey, all of us had got offered our junior year. So I was sitting on the LSU offer. But I wanted to take most of my visits. So I remember when I got back from Colorado, they wanted to meet with me. Like at the time, Vance Joseph there. He a Shaw guy. You had my cousin Thaddeus Washington. You had
Yeah,
another Shaw guy, an old teammate of mine, and your boy Sammy Joseph. So
yeah.
I was going to take that visit. Like it wasn't that I wasn't going to go to that one. So what I soon discovered when I got back, Lance Nicholson came with it. Oh, coming down there to Woodmill, we want to have a talk with you. Coach Saban came out the car. And he was like, "Hey man, it's a couple other guys we looking at across the country that I mean, if you're not gonna come in, just let us know." And he really put the full court press on. I mean, he had
Mm.
put a significant amount of pressure, and it is. I I didn't feel like my scholarship was going to be threatened. I really felt, as if it was one of those situations where he knew the game to play early, and then
Mm-hmm.
LSU was on on a winning streak. 'Cause at the All Star game, thank you, man. At the All Star game, Skylar Green and all those guys that came out there. What's up, man? And these guys, getting ready to play in the national championship. So, and I remember Skylar scored the first touchdown, and I had like this
Mm-hmm.
little hand thing I did. I was like, yeah, and he did that. And my living room erupt. Everybody went crazy. Oh, and I'm like, man, he did my head. I showed him that at the, and I'm like, man, I gotta go to LSU. This is about to be litty. And from there, the rest was pretty much history. And it made the decision much easier because I did cancel my visit to USC. I felt like if I would have went there, I would have enjoyed it too much, and I would have ended up, and I didn't want to go through that.
Gotcha. Go ahead, VK.
Well, we go way, way back, Marlon, you know what I'm saying? So, we talk about those days at West Jeff and so when you mentioned Jeremy Jones, I'm gonna tell you this, me and my brother coached him when he was younger, and that was the biggest shock of my life, seeing him on the football field. And I was like,
Yeah, he's good at
oh
basketball.
my God. So it was crazy then. But I gotta ask you this about your alma mater and everything else. Now, what do you think? Do you think coming up, West Jeff, new coach coming in and everything else, you know what I'm saying? They've been dormant over the years. Do you think West Jeff will finally get back in contention, getting back into, competing and becoming a very good football school again?
Well, before I answer that question, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my very first interview ever that I did as a college football player, as a football player, period, with this man right here, VK Jones. So, brother, to still see you around in the business 20 plus years later is truly a blessing, VK. So I'm honored to be on with you. Um,
Appreciate it.
no doubt, 100. But the West Jeff, so Coach Holmes is there now. He has experience. He coached out up north. I gave him a call. He thought I was calling for the D line job. Man, I thought you was calling. So I just congratulated him. I was like, nah, I just wanted to reach out to your coach. I got Conquer Sports Pros. I can take a couple of your D linemen over and train them on a Tuesday if you need me to, man. Well, we got to work out something. But uh, listen, it's just y'all. We would have to do another podcast because so much has changed in regards to districts of the schools, select A select. So with Higgins no longer being around, I want to say they took Helen Cox away too. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so many of those schools. So it's an opportunity, but let's be honest. I mean, we just looking on it. We all West Bankers. Let's just have a West Bank conversation here for a second. You have Bryce over there at call, and you got Coach Hank back here. So in regards to getting players, there's a challenge, and it's about winning at the end of the day. And the emergence and John Eric just legit just kind of being consistent with the athletes. It's just really tough. Could Coach Holmes do it? Yeah, I think he can. New coach coming in with new ideas. He has experience, but it's just so hard. The size of the guys. I mean, they got some big balls over there. Coach Don's over there doing an excellent job in the strength and conditioning program, but just having those playmakers has been a struggle. So, good coaching, it could possibly happen, but it's a long shot right now.
Absolutely. Last winning season at West Jeff was with Marcus Scott. Their last playoff appearance was under Cyril Crutchfield. So it's been a long time since West Jeff has
Wow,
been
VK.
back, and we haven't seen West Jeff really in the fold, and it's just been long, long time. Now I got to ask you this about your LSU days and everything, man. I know it was pretty much you put in a lot of work, put a lot of production in and everything. And I got to ask you this on air. You had a transition over the years. Nick Saban brought you in, but then all of a sudden, Les Miles took over, and then all of a sudden, you won the national championship. Can you tell me which coach you thought was the best one, and not just that? What was your thoughts on the transition from Saban to Les Miles?
Well, I mean, with Coach Saban's record, it would be blasphemy to not say he was a better coach over the years. I mean, even going toe to toe with Coach Miles. And my experience with Coach Saban was much different. He was cut like he was straight to the. I mean, he shot from the hip. No feelings considered. You know, he gonna keep it a dollar with you. So that's one thing you respect about him. Coach Miles' practices was a lot longer than Coach Saban's, so we didn't really like that. For what we're doing right now, man, Miles is that guy. You know, our time together there, the relationship was really good. And if I'm keeping it real, y'all, and I gotta do that with y'all on here, my playing time might be much harder with Coach Saban. Like I'm just keeping it real. Like
Yeah,
Yes.
when Coach Miles came in, I was Coach Miles. It seemed he really was about the guys he recruited. And through that senior year at West Jeff, I entertained Oklahoma State. I didn't take my visit, but they came down, and you know I had talked with Coach Miles and Coach Dunbar at the time was there. So I mean, to compare the two, I mean, Coach Saban, he's arguably the GOAT, greatest college football coach of all time. Miles, I think he mastered. He knew what he knew, right? He was really good with tight ends and on the offensive line and blocking schemes. And if you notice, it unfortunately became his demise. Just it worked for Leonard Fournette, right?
yeah,
Touching the
Mhm.
ball a gazillion times and going. We didn't see a running back go that high. It sent him, right?
yep,
Uh, but in the same token, we know what that did. Um, we know what that did for for uh for Coach Miles in terms of his job there, just not being able to evolve. And I don't know if that's something Coach Saban going through right now. He has to evolve the new SEC, right? New deal, NIL, and all of that good stuff. But I mean, my time with Coach Miles, I really appreciate it because he believed in me. You know, I worked hard. I was starting his program for 3 years, and just looking back at it, it was good times. He allowed me to be me, right? You know, at a time where it wasn't really cool to be a football player and a rapper. He embraced that. He told Snoop Dogg Big Fave was his favorite rapper. He he uh he had us perform, me, Fat, and Che perform at the Sugar Bowl and the national championship. So he was a fun coach, and I think that had a lot to do with the success with us winning.
Well, looking at the national championship run, what a season that was indeed. And I got to tell you, out of all the games that season, the LSU Florida game, probably one of the best LSU games I've ever seen because those two teams going to war and all the fourth down plays, we everybody had a nickname for Les Miles, and they said Big Nuts Les. That was his name because the fact of that is all the fourth downs he went for in that Florida game. But regardless of the fact, what are your thoughts about take us back to that season of that national championship season and especially the national championship game, how y'all really stepped up being down early against Ohio State, but came back and just put a wallop on them to win the national championship.
I think the '07 story really starts in '06. We felt like that was our year. When Florida won the national championship and they beat Ohio State, that's all the motivation we needed because we knew about the. I mean, we had Florida, we had them when we went down to the swamp, and it was that game that stopped us. That was the difference in between playing against Coach Trussell in the national championship that year, as opposed to playing against Brady Quinn, right? That one game. So going into the '07 season, our mind was fixated. So huge. Get this, y'all. In a day of NIL, we talking about this. I watched Glenn Dorsey stare $20 million down the barrel, turn around and come back to LSU. Like that's how bad guys on that team wanted that national championship. Like we knew something about this season was going to be special. We set the tone early with Virginia Tech. When we beat the brakes off of Virginia Tech, I'm like, oh yeah, we ready, because it was just everything was in peace. You had Quinn Johnson at fullback. You know, you moved all the key pieces over O line. You had Carnell Stewart at O line, Lyle Hit. These two guys played on the D line, right? You had guys that knew defensive linemen and just was going to whip the tail of the guy over. And you know, Brett Helms. I mean, I've never seen a guy with so much grit at 275. I had a lot of battles at practice with Brett Helms. He's a smart center, understood ball. You know, you look across that line. I talked about Lyle Hit, Big Herman Johnson, heaviest baby ever
Mm-hmm.
recorded in the state. You know, going to war with Herm every day. You know, I got to take my hands even at practice. So we battled in the trenches. So we knew, and Coach Miles, who liked to run the game, or the run game, running game, we knew he was going to do it. We had a arsenal of running backs. You could put Charles Scott in. You could put Keelan Williams. Give Hester the ball on fourth down. You know, we had enough versatility on offense to attack. Ryan Perilou, this kid was rotating in. I tell people this all the time, and this is no disrespect to Matt Flynn, but man, Ryan won that national championship for us. I mean, his MVP performance in the SEC championship
Yes, sir.
led us there. You know, Matt Flynn was healthy, but just keeping the dollar, being there, watching everything unfold. Yeah, that's Ryan Perilou. And I mean, defensively, I mean, our first few games, we didn't allow 20 points. We just was so relentless. We wouldn't lose. The stuff.
Uh-oh.
Like we lost Big Fave for a second. Hopefully we can get him back.
It might have been there. Might have been the phone ringing. You know how that goes.
See if we can get him back. Might have been somebody called him. We had that happen before.
Mm-hmm.
So sit tight with us. We'll get Big Fave back in here.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is the start of Legends Month. This is Legends Month here on Hash It Out Show. And we got a whole bunch of interviews with local New Orleans, state of Louisiana legends in football for this month. And we're going to do a new one coming up in October that will focus on hoops. So this is the first one of tonight with Marlon Favorite. And then coming up Wednesday night, we will have former Archbishop Shaw wide receiver Terrell Harris joining us on the show.
There he is.
There you
Hey,
go.
there we
Fave.
go.
Yeah.
We good?
We
Yes,
good,
sir.
Fave.
I'm sorry, I gotta just get y'all back in my ear. I can hear y'all. My apologies about that, fellas.
You good, my brother?
Yeah.
I know we were in the middle of talking about. I was sharing a story with y'all. Hold on one second. Let's see where we at. There we go. Y'all got me in the ear?
We got
Yeah,
you in the air. We
exactly.
see you. Yep.
Hello, somebody. Now we cooking with hot grease. All right. So Coach Pelini was smart. He liked, clickbait news clippers to try to get us fired up. So Coach Hank was notorious for that too. Well, the offensive lineman from Virginia Tech, when asked about Glenn Dorsey, so man, what you gonna do, professor? Man, Glenn Dorsey, a man just like me. He put his he put his pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. Boy, that was all over the locker room. Boy, he went off that game. It was little stuff like that. We were up for the challenge. Everybody talking about Tim Tebow and how oh man, the quarterback power, they killing everybody with the quarterback power. And we shut that down. Tim Tebow couldn't do nothing on us. So that team, we we understood we understood, the element of surprise. We understood intimidation. We were just ready for war. We had the size, the strength, and the speed to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I got to ask you this, and got a couple more questions before I pass it to George Peppers. Let's be real here. Keep it a $150 with all of us, Marlon. We know Ryan Perilou, talented as I don't know what, and I know he got into some little things, and he's doing pretty good for himself now, and I'm glad for him. But at a time, I felt like this more than anything else, despite what he went through at LSU. I always felt Ryan Perilou would have been possibly better off if he went to Texas because of the fact of the situation is if he would have just redshirted that year and Vince Young is gone, he's the man for 3 years at Texas and he's just totally focused and everything else, despite the distractions that he had to face. Now, do you kind of agree with that, or what do you think? Because I really think, I think Marlon, I think Ryan Perrilloux was awesome. I really think he did some good things at LSU, but I think he would have been better off at Texas, and possibly he would have been maybe drafted higher. What are your thoughts?
Oh man. Well, I talk to Ryan a lot. Ryan coaches our quarterback for Concord Sports, so he talks about this a lot. Not necessarily about the Texas thing. Like he still loves his decision for that. Um, Hindsight 2020, just putting on my football lens, could have been less distractions, right? Um, this isn't me talking. This is more like conversations with Ryan, and he shared this on my podcast before, so I don't mind sharing it with y'all. But it was just a lot of it was maturity. Um, Being able to separate yourself from the crowd and just being loyal but being truthful, like and picking the right people around you. And I know we hear that a lot, and it wasn't like I said. At one point, they had Ryan moving with us. He moved in with me and Kirsten on campus just to be around some guys that was about turning up, but we did it within reason. At certain time you got to be inside. It's just, you look around. We talked in code. We knew when everybody had to get out there. Somebody on that side of the club talking about, man, I like this thing up in here. Before you know it, we just said all kind of squalets and we out of there. It was just different things we did back in the day because we all had a common goal, and the common goal was we going to the NFL. Like we came to LSU, y'all win national championships. We see Michael Clayton and Marcus Spears and Lord bless it there, my brother Marquise Hill. Like we
Yeah,
see them boys going, you know. We want to be able to have that opportunity and that fueled us. Let me tell y'all what changed my life. Elysian Fields, right? Group
yeah,
Aaron and Alexis. Aaron's my
Mm,
homegirl. Actually, Alexis, Aaron ended up marrying Tyson Jackson. That's his wife.
wow.
The end of my freshman year changed everything. The end of my freshman year, it just changed everything. Coming out of the fall break into spring semester and seeing my teammates like Alexa, we got a video shoot, all Spears and everybody. At this point, last time I saw them was at the bowl game. They just signed with agents. Boys pull up on campus, Range Rovers, BMW 745. You see the eyes. And that was motivation because that made it real. Wait, he played the same position as me. So if I grinded out the next 3 years, so that became a huge motivation, moving forward. So I look at changing moments like that at LSU. 'Cause, we out Marrero, we out Harvey. We just seen Cash Money Million. We saw Juba take over for 99 and 2000. Right? But we saw that on TV. We might see these dudes at Team Summit pull up in a helicopter. But for my
right.
teammate, the dude I was just playing on side, pull up with a wad of cash and a 745 with the eyes, yeah, it was motivation. That was so, and if they're NIL, that was our NIL. What could be? So yeah, it was just a different thing.
All right, I'm gonna ask you one more thing, and I'm gonna let George take over. Um, you made the transition over the years into communications, into media, and everything else. Tell us about what motivated you to get into that, and also talk about the ups and downs you went through, and also the turnaround for you to get everything together. Because right now, we remember the beginning of Inside the Trenches and everything, and we knew you had some potential, but when you went through that transition of going to symposiums and all this other stuff and learned about marketing and all of a sudden, seeing you a couple years later over at Hell's Memphis, I'm looking and seeing what you're doing. It's like, bruh, Marlon Favorite looks like a well-oiled machine, and you dabbed me up and hugged me and said, "Thank you so much for telling me what you can tell me." But tell us about the transition, inspiration, and also how things turned around for you.
Um, I think that. my mama always told me I was going to end up like doing broadcasting and being on television and even my entrepreneur ventures. So the seed was planted as a kid. Those voodoo days, New Orleans voodoo days, was when I first kind of started baking the cake, working on my craft. Whether it's going with Doug Mouton, just getting the rep to talk about the LSU game that particular night, or going on with Scott Alexander, just catching a couple segments with him, and then later on Gus. So those reps really mattered. And then once I made the decision to retire, and that's why I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, right? And it was a grind. Like I remember my first time trying out for Cox for Game of the Week, and it was really timing with that. Haley Asaro was our player personnel person at the New Orleans Voodoo at the time, so I had in my mind I more than likely would be retiring, and I wanted to put my. I said, man, hey, let's get boy up. I do a couple of shows here and there, and she put a word in for me and got me an audition. And the game I did, y'all gonna like this. You can really appreciate this one. The game I auditioned with my co-producer at that deal, went to the Harahan office, was the St. Aug versus Carr game of 2013 with Leonard Fournette, Speedy Noah, and all those guys on the field.
Wow.
We called that game. We called that whole game play by play. He did the play by play. I did the color analyst, and those reps mattered. That's why I tell you, even for the folks watching the show that might want to get into broadcasting, reps matter. They really do. So from there, it was just really the network game, just continue to do the reps. And my cousin, out the blue, Nick hit me up. He like, man, you need to go to this NFL broadcast boot camp. I'm like, I see what's up. It's that I think gonna make me pay an arm and a leg because I don't have any credited seasons for to have pension and all of that. I mean, I played 4 years in the NFL. They only gave me 1 year, so it's like what you can do in 1 year. So long story short, I ended up going. Grace of God, everything worked out. That was the biggest symposium, or rookie. I was about to say rookie symposium. Broadcast boot camp. It was the biggest one. There were 36 of us there. This was right before the pandemic, 2019. Really took everything off for me, and it was guys like Vernon Davis there, Matthew Castle. I knew a lot of the guys I played ball with. And before you knew it, I went from being in the pack to the top 16 to the top 8 to the top 4, and the top 4 went to the Super Bowl. So it was just taking that Marrero, that Harvey mentality out there. Like, what we gonna go back to? What there is, like and you have to do this because it's people that really want to do this, and you have to motivate them. Like you got your position. You that's how I look at stuff, y'all. Like everything. Like, why am I out here in Miami? All expense paid. They basically like this dude got to go. That ain't number guard, right? And the
Right.
reps that he had at work, the faith in the work, the reps, like during those games, just getting comfortable with talking on air really helped catapult that. So man, VK, that's how it all sparked off. And I mean, when the pandemic hit, everything just basically plateaued. So it's the same contact. I'm on the same wait list. If NFL Network needs some New Orleans Saints coverage and one of the top dogs can't make it, I could cover for them or something like that. And just LSU Sports Radio, having that going on and all this has been a huge blessing.
George Peppers.
What's up, big fan? First of all, full disclosure before we start, I am a proud alumnus of John Ehret High School, class of 1990.
All
Just
right.
saying, dog. You went to West Jeff. I get it. Look, if you'd have came to Ehret, we might have won another. We might have. I might have got another. We might have got us another ring. But that's full disclosure. First off, I want to thank you for giving the time for us to do this with you. It's been an extreme pleasure. But my first question. Let's talk about your time at LSU. I mean, everybody's harped on '07. Well, people forget they needed Pitt to beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl to get y'all to the national championship. Y'all didn't lose a game in regulation. Arkansas and Kentucky, two triple overtime losses, but y'all lost to some incredible, incredible athletes. Andre Woodson was a real special quarterback in Kentucky. McFadden in Arkansas was lit. I mean, how many thank you bottles did you send to Pitt after they beat West Virginia at West Virginia to get y'all
Let
to
me
the
tell you,
champ?
I messed with my homeboy Rashad Duncan. Matter of fact, his wife came down here for Essence. He's like, "Hey, bro, and I always got to show them love." That beating West Virginia, and Jonathan Stewart was my teammate with the Carolina Panthers. He always, we won
Hmm.
that game for you guys, right? So that, I thought that was, so you get the constant reminder, and it kind of ties back into that other deal, a two-loss team, right? And we might see a scenario like that this year. G, to be honest with you, the way the new system is rolling, well, as we roll into the 12-game system, but it was just when that, what they say, put your head down and work. Let everything else take care of itself. All we knew is we won the SEC championship. We was ready to just be SEC champions. But boy, when we got that alert from the people that on the plane, or that the plane dropped 2,000 feet because we was jumping up and down. I'm like, boy, Herman, boy, sit your big self down, Herm, you tripping.
Yes,
Boy,
indeed.
Woo.
yeah, yeah, and the rest is just history. Like it was, the stars aligned. Like, yeah, we should have sent Pitt more than flowers. They should have got cannons and crawfish too. I mean,
Mhm.
they hooked us up.
Whatever works. But that championship, when y'all got there, I figured y'all were going to win it because Ohio State, even though they got the Beanie Wells touchdown early, LSU was clearly better that night. Y'all were just clearly better, and y'all handled y'all business. But you talk about your time in the NFL, 4 years and whatnot, and whatnot, and now you're into broadcasting and rapping. Um, how is that going along with your broadcast? Give us a little bit of a plug. What you got going on with your broadcasting and with your rap label?
Oh well, with broadcasting, I'm coming up on year 7, 8, one of the two. But
Hmm.
years flying with LSU Sports Radio, so I'm excited about that. We expanded our market. It's gonna be some good games this year. I still do Great Day Louisiana, so I go on Great Day one Friday out of the month throughout the year, and during football season we do about 2 to 3. So that's expanding. Inside the trenches is very interesting right now because I'm revamping things with it. I want to make it a little more personal, as opposed to just getting hit news as it comes. So we're
Hmm.
my team's kind of behind me trying to help revamp that. We're gonna go with another cover and all. Uh, and right now, y'all, that music. Look, I did not know when Deli and I did Gorilla that 20 some odd songs later, we was gonna be in this position. It just all happened fast. JB could tell you back in the day, we used to do some rapping at Shaw and did a gospel album with St. Joe's the Worker. Shout out to Clark Knighton when I was 14. Did my first rap song, Created Anew, and it's just always been in me. I had to hide it a lot when I was in college. They didn't really like when we dropped Sophisticated Hustlers. I had to put at the bottom, Marlon Favorite showed up courtesy of Black Venom. He did not violate any NCAA rules. Like it was crazy. So like for Flaunger, I see a lot of me and her. Like I remember being that like student athlete, that really like rapper athlete, and that was just who I really was. Like a lot of people like, yo, let me bust a ball. Like now I'm in the studio 5, 6 hours, 7 hours working on stuff, and to be able to uh, still do it and have fun with it and do shows and get guys like Chopper Style and Baby Boy to want to do features with. It's just been a blessing. So, gee, I have tonight. Oh wait, I'm premiering this on y'all deal tonight. Uh, Long Letters, the bounce mix drops featuring Lovely. That's John Emery's sister. She's on that. We're gonna drop that at that's dropping tonight at midnight. And
Okay,
then
Okay.
this fall,
All
we're
right.
dropping Lover. So there's gonna be a full out R&B EP that's about to drop. So
good.
That's cool.
That's great.
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Um, talk about LSU. Well, let's talk about LSU. More so, I think obviously the momentum they've had with their basketball team winning women's basketball taking home a title. Now the baseball team getting a title. Talk about the state of athletics at LSU. It's got to be at its most premium now. Do you feel like it's in a better spot now than it was when you were at '07 and whatnot? You
Yeah,
got Brian Kelly there now as your football coach. People are saying it could be LSU time in 2023. Where do you see this program, athletic program now, as compared to when you were there?
It looks a lot like '06. That energy is there. I would
Hmm.
say it's spread throughout the sport. So, little birdie. So Scott Woodward was there my freshman year. He left with Saban, and then this is his second time back around. So you kind of have some of the key players that was around then back around now. Well, the key player. So I think that has a lot to do with the success of the. I know that has a lot to do with the success in the athletic department. Gee, I think it's energy, man. Like I remember this bug. This bug was not a bad flu bug. This is a Cajun bug that's flying around LSU just biting away. That same
Hmm.
bug is back. I feel it. I felt it a little bit in 19. So I pay attention to this, right? So I mean, yeah, Will Wade. It just was what it was. You got Coach McMahon in there. Then he gonna straighten it out, tighten up recruiting. Look at the gymnast, national champion, golf, killing the game. It's just making the right hires. Now check this out, right? Kim Mulkey, 2 years national championship. Jay Johnson, 2 years national championship. Brian Kelly, 1 year, SEC West.
yeah.
So it's like a lot of people wasn't in favor of the move at first. I didn't like the I didn't. Let me take this back. I wasn't super excited about the hire at first, but I wasn't mad. Just being a football guy, this dude went toe to toe with Coach Saban and came close. This guy that been in the college football playoff. He left the team that was on route. Like so when a guy does that, you start paying attention to what's happening. Like this dude's leaving a perfectly good Notre Dame program. And by the way, that was in the conversation. You had Ian Book and all these guys. You had the Quinn Nelsons and all this nice O line and all this. So he's putting together a nice team. So you start to think, I'm like, all right, cool. For Florida State game, I'm like, oh Lord. In Tennessee, I'm like, But then I legit watched changes happen throughout the year,
Yeah.
and he start making better decisions. And the icing on the cake, and legit, no pun intended. I'm just telling you how it is. The elephant in the room, beating Alabama at home, that solidified Brian Kelly. That did it. I mean,
Agreed.
everything else was cool
Absolutely.
in it. That did it. That did it. I mean, the Ole Miss game was like, ooh, all right, I see what's going on. And then, we beat Texas A&M, and M, and I'm just kind of paying attention to some of the games that was a problem before that isn't. So you got a quarterback. I mean, it's just, is it pressure on? I guess what G really asking. That's a real question. Like, is it pressure on Brian Kelly to make something happen? Right? So it's that, and they got
Hmm.
like they're in the conversation. So I'm interested in seeing how the season gonna go.
I think a lot of people are interested and consider. I agree with you. I wasn't excited about the hire as a football coach. I thought he was a great pick. As a person, look, say what you want. I don't know the man personally, but the thing with Declan Sullivan years ago at Notre Dame that still resonates with me a little bit. I mean, I have my thoughts on that, but that's just kosher or whatnot. My last question to you, and I'm gonna turn it over to Jared when I with this question. Um, Talk about the difference in NILs now. How much of an impact do you think it's had going into? I mean, obviously, transfer portals are absolutely going crazy, but when it comes to high school kids, now they're looking at big bucks, especially your five stars. Talk about how that's affected the recruiting aspect of intercollegiate football.
I mean, it legit made a 180 in that time frame, and you started gearing up. The definition of a PWO, and for your listeners, preferred walk on, that's changed. The way, like legit, LSU won these games through the transfer portal. Like you
Yeah.
get Paul Skeens through the transfer portal, you get Angel Reese through the transfer portal. So it changed it in regards to that, but it really damaged high school football. Like being in the business, like I'm legit in the trenches, y'all. Like with Conquer Sports Pros for the since 2000 and I would say 16. We've been in the trenches, talking to coaches, doing everything we can to get kids in school. Like that's what we do, and we've had a decent success rate with that. But with the NIL, like my own son, I struggle with my own child. My son is the number one punter in the region, right? This kid kicks the ball 70 yards. He has a 5 second hang time on it on average, and he caught 21 touchdowns in 2 years, right? So I had to be the smart parent, go Mississippi prep route, then get back into recruiting. That's what my son. I got 7 other kids just like that. It damaged high school recruiting pretty bad to the point to where it it'll heal. And I think that now, especially Louisiana being a state where high school kids can receive NIL. I mean, there's ways to do it, and this is just a message to the kids. I mean, don't be opposed to that D2 school.
Right.
10 NFL teams, G. I've had teammates from D3s, D2s. Pierre Gonçalves come from Mount Union. Is a D3. Like, legit, he gets drafted 6th round, not me. He pulls out the black card at dinner, not me. I got the national championship ring. He got a national championship ring from Mount Union. So my message to the high school football players: you don't have to go to LSU, you don't have to go to Ole Miss, you don't have to go to USC, Florida State. You can legit go to Arkansas Monticello. You can go to even Division I AA schools, Nickel State. There's other schools you can go to, Lincoln University. It's other schools that serve that purpose. So that's just a message because I think kids need to hear that because through the NIL and the transfer portal, we all adults here. I'm going with that quarterback who played at Utah State. He started in 4 games. He wanted to go a different direction versus this guy who just won a state championship at U High. I'm taking that kid and that's what happened, y'all. And it's going to find balance. And now high school kids, like I said, I mix my groups. If you're 17 years old, 16 years old, and I got Cam Jordan at this session, you're going to train with Cam Jordan because you got to be that good in order to survive this NIL. That's my thoughts. It's whew, boy, it's a whole nother ball game. It's the patient game.
Big Fave. 2 more questions and we get you out of here. First question. Tell us about Conquer Sports.
So Conquer Sports was created by myself, Skylar Green, and Chandler August. Skylar ended up being a coach, and Chandler took on some different business ventures, and I took fully over of the business back in 2019, and we do training, consultation, and media. Like that's our 3 points. We get our kids exposure. We understand how important it is to market them. So making videos and encouraging them to repost, and retweet, and share. That's one aspect. We really deal with player development. I will get my college guys to come through like Adonis Freeload. I get a couple other guys like Donald Bernard come through. I have Cam Jones, who's in the transfer portal right now, out of Edna Carr, and they just fine tune their skills to get better. We're consistent. We're working out every week, 3 times a week. We have classes, and that's that. And as far as the uh, consultation goes, that's what the navigating them through the recruiting process and really taking them through evaluation. So I use my core group of athletes, guys like Eric Alexander, Robert Royal, guys like Keenan Lewis, and different players who played in the NFL and they have the experience, and a couple of coaches that guys like Derek Stingley who coach professionally, and I send the film to that and they give me an evaluation along with my in-house team, and we do that so parents can have a realistic look on what type of moves they should make with their student athletes, what type of school. Like reason I ain't running my kid to this D2 school first option because I know he got a Division I league, so we're gonna play the patient game,
Yeah.
right? We're not gonna just jump on anything. But if he was just putting subpar and he got an offer from a D2 school, so you might want to consider that D2 school. So it's stuff like that. We just keep it $1 with the parents.
Last question. You are a Super Bowl champion with the Saints. Tell us about that time when you got signed and you was with the team throughout the whole Super Bowl.
Surreal, JB. Like that situation with New Orleans was just not only it was a dream come true to make it to the NFL, but to make it to a Super Bowl, not only make it there, win it, and then do it with your hometown. Surreal, brother. That's all I that's the only one word I can sum it up with. Now how it happened and the road to it and the road after it, boy, that's a motion picture, right? It's it's just so much that goes into to the NFL. But from start to finish, so New Orleans was my fifth NFL team, but it was my first year. And when they signed me, it just let me know that God was real.
Yeah.
Like those quiet prayers in the hotel in Seattle when you're playing for the Seahawks and they thinking about cutting you and you're trying to figure it out was when I signed on the dotted line, like it all made sense. Like, oh, that's what, oh, snap. Like, yeah, like it was that. And I mean, it's just memories forever. Like, would you say those photographic memories, right? This is like right, right before the market crash. So, gas wasn't crazy. Um, and it was just a good time. It was a Miami that we turned into New Orleans. Like you saw Fertile Lee symbols all over, and I just really enjoyed, hadn't been a part of it before with LSU, being a part of the healing process of the city. Like being in that parade on the float, looking into like it's grown men with West Jeff T-shirts on, crying.
Yeah.
Like that does something different to you. Like that means that much. Crime stopped in the city for 2 weeks. Being a native of the area, y'all, like we appreciate those things. I mean, Drew Brees was from here. You know what I'm saying? He don't know what it was. He knew he was doing something good, but like to be on that team and to be a part of that had a more lasting experience than anything else.
Most definitely. Big Fave. Thank you for coming on the show today, man. We truly appreciate it. Wait, VK always got another question. Go ahead, VK. Go ahead, bro.
Hey man, the dude brought me in the game, bro. I gotta get another question out of
Yes,
him.
sir.
First of all, I want to tell you this, Marlon, before we get out of here. I need you to do me one favor. You mentioned Robert Raw. Tell Robert Raw to get back with me. We're trying to get him on for Legends Week, so let him know
All
that.
right.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I always appreciate you. We're proud of what you're doing. You have
Definitely.
grown so much. I just knew and I had a feeling that you would be more than hello somebody, but that's your moniker. But you turned out to be more than hello somebody. You have more of an intelligent mind than anything else, and you're putting it to what you're doing. So we're proud of what you're doing and everything. But I gotta ask you this one more thing since you're an LSU guy and you're an LSU alumnus. Which national championship team in football was the best? Was it '03, '07, or 2019? And to me, in my opinion, that 2019 team is probably the best of the three because that is a legendary team in season.
All right. Now here go the 2 minute conversation. I thought VK was gonna get a sentence. All right. So here's how this goes, and like there's a whole science with all the guys who was on these teams. We break it down. Okay. 2019 was the greatest college football team ever assembled. I will put that team. They had the greatest college football season ever. I will put their season up against Ohio 2004, Miami 2001, and USC 2003. I'll put them up against all those Texas 2000. I'll put that team. That team will win those games. Now they will struggle against Miami because that year we slightly struggled against Auburn. See, people forget we only beat Auburn by 3 points. A lot of people forget that. And what it was is the way Kevin Steele put together that defense. Boy, that was tough. That was tough. Um, the 2019 team had the greatest offense that we've ever seen in LSU's history. I'm sorry. To watch that that's why I said thank you, Lord, for this job. I love every week
Mhm.
watching this unfold. Right? 2003 was some vicious guys. They just didn't have the speed of these other schools. I mean, these other teams. But I'm gonna tell y'all this: the best team all around didn't win the national championship. See that 2011
Yeah.
LSU team?
Oh
That was
Mm,
man.
the best team. The
mm,
2007 defense, like, come on, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, we're in a
Thank you.
conversation before our grit, but '03 was the toughest. '07 we had grit. We didn't give up. We was feisty. 11 was the best overall team, and 19 was the greatest. Had the greatest college football season ever, and that's your answer, VK. So 19 I think will win all the games. I think 19 will win. I mean, just too many weapons on offense. See, here's the scary part. The offense was so vicious, y'all. The defense struggled. Well, them
Yeah.
put points up on our defense. That's what people forget about 19. 19 was getting scored on.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
beating teams 64-52. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that
Now,
'07 team, you'd be lucky you get 20 points. But that's
That
your
defense.
question. Hey,
if the 2011, and that's funny, if that 2011 team wins it all, it would have been a comparison from that team to the 19, because you look at that resume in itself. That could have been that was a great resume until they lost to Bama. I think the 19 championship made it up. I think that
yep.
made up that 2011 big time because of the
And
fact of that lineup in itself and the way that they not just beat teams, but how all the players stepped up and each game they stepped their intensity up and everything else. I think would have beat Miami, to be honest, because think about it. LSU already beat them down in a bowl game and the fight. So
yeah, yeah.
I love it in
Listen,
itself.
listen. You won't bring that up? After that game, after we beat them on the field and in the tunnel, we got investigated. They found out that we were doing karate in the summer and made us quit karate.
Wait,
We could
but
Wow.
not do
didn't
Damn.
karate.
Nick Saban start that at every program he goes
Yes,
to?
yes, these hands broke through boards.
Yeah.
Several of them. It's
Man.
tapping into your inner chi. You're not punching through it with your strength mentally. Yeah, yeah. We was learning some kung fu karate. I'm telling you, we was just
Wow.
mafia. We was just too strong. We were too athletic. I'm telling you. That's why I say what I say about the '03, '07 team. Them
Yeah.
boys were aggressive. Now, the where 19 had the superstars on offense, 11 had the superstars on defense. Eric
Defense. Yeah.
Reed, Tyron Matthew.
Yeah.
Come on now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a different time, y'all. So that's a good question. If you can on a nice one right there.
That's a good VK.
Oh yeah.
Big Fave, man. Thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate it, bro. And good luck in the future with everything that you do, my man.
Man, God bless y'all. Thank y'all for having me, fellas. Peace.
Thank you, VK.
We
Always.
appreciate it. Thank you.
One.
Big Fave. Marlon Favorite. All right. Right.
Mm.
Where GP went?
Yeah, I think
GP, where
I
the hell
hope,
you went?
I hope you ain't taking them off. You must have pressed two buttons.
No, I didn't take him out. I didn't. I
Oh.
took out Marlon. I took out. I took out Marlon.
Oh, okay. I hope George didn't. I hope he comes
We gotta
back.
get George back. There you go. Like what
Uh,
happened?
I think you knocked me off
Eh,
by accident, but I got to say this 53 minutes, 53 before you know what? The interruption. 53,
But I
baby.
would say this. I would say this.
That was a
He
good
raised his
interruption,
hand.
though.
I saw it, and he didn't say nothing. So it's all good. I gotta give him
It's
that.
exactly. It's all to the good. But I tell you what, that was a legit fun interview. I mean, a lot of our interviews are fun, but this one, I think it hit a little bit different because you got a lot of knowledge and insight into how Marlon Favorite is. And Big Fave is a guy I'm looking forward to meeting in person soon. I know VK knows him well, Jared, you too. And look,
Yes.
I had to dig on my first question. I just had to.
I knew it was
I
coming.
knew it was coming.
Oh shit. I mean, look, Aaron and West Jeff, look, y'all both know the vitriol behind that rivalry. There is just hate. It is a straight hatred. I don't hate Fave though. Absolutely not. But you know what happened? It was around my time, right before my time at Aaron, where Aaron and West Jeff, the rivalry took off. But it took a tragic incident to really escalate things. But I don't want to share it now. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it was years ago, and let it go. I mean, the families have suffered enough.
Yeah.
So, but look, I wanted to say that when was the last time West Jeff beat Eric? I don't know.
It's been a
I
long,
mean, it's
long
been a minute.
time. I think
It's been a while.
the last time that the
Out in
last time
Crunchville,
was
huh?
Jeff actually no
Before that,
under Marcus Scott.
Marcus Scott. Yeah,
That
they
was the
beat us.
last
They beat the
time.
last time they beat us. I was at that game, and a funny story. Myself and VK was working with Louisiana football. I think with Lee Burkeen that night, and I was on the sideline with Mike Strom, great reporter for the Times. Well, I guess what do we call it now? The Acadiana Times, New Orleans.
Definitely.
I don't even know what New Orleans
Advocate.
Advocate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, but it was a Times Picayune at the time. So Mike and I were on the sideline, and it was a great game. West Jeff Arrett back and forth, and Arrett ran a beautiful toss sweep. And from our vantage point, they looked like they easily got the first. Well, Mike just makes an offhand comment. He goes, "Geez, George, look at this." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "How does West Jeff have the ball?" Well, homeboy, the side judge ruled that Eric didn't get the yards, and and the side judge was in his feelings because he turned around and said, "Why don't you leave me do your blanking job?" I was like, "Well, you just cost these kids a district championship. How about you do yours? You know, how about you do yours? Because that was a great game that had a terrible ending. BK, you remember that?
Yeah.
That was a
Sure do.
bad ending. It really was. And it was like, man, it's not fair. And this is the part where officials in high school come in. And look, we've had this for years. I've lived in a small town. And dude, I can promise you, they got some shady officiating in central Louisiana and your outskirt towns. I promise you. The first time I ever heard shady officiating involved Shaw. When they went to, was it Harnville? I think y'all went down to Harnville and my little brother was in the band that year. And I mean, well, actually, no, I take that back. The Evangel game in Shreveport, where it was a back and forth game. That game, that game,
Oh, you got me mad.
dude.
Oh,
the-
Lord.
How, how in the world can you be a referee and make the call that he made? There was an onside kick. Shaw executed it beautifully. Their guys swarmed it, and there was no whistle, none for a good 2 minutes. So they finally blow it and say Evangel recovered. Shaw loses. Evangel wins state. It's like, damn, that Shaw team would have won. I promise you, that Shaw team, I think it was 2000, Jared. Was it?
It is
What year was
2001.
that?
2001.
One. That Shaw team would have won state. I guarantee it.
And then
Because they would toe to toe with that Evangel team. And they would have beat that team in their place and come to the Superdome and won state.
and then
That would look.
the pass interference on Sammy Joseph. I'm still trying to see where that pass interference at.
Hmm.
And me too. I mean, I wasn't there. My brother was in the Shaw band, and he came on. I've seen him upset, but I tell you what, that was next level upset. Oh Lord,
Yeah.
I don't know who Jet Life is, but that's an interesting comment. But yeah, he was next level upset. It was like I didn't know what to say. I was like, and then Shaw was the benefit of a bogus call when they went to Salmon in '08 in the semis, and y'all beat them to get to the
That,
dome.
that was a legit call. I got the video
Was
too.
it,
Ah,
dude?
no
Really?
way, no
It's a
way in the
legit call. I
world.
got the video.
How's a
Now hold
legit
on.
call? Which
Look,
legit call is that?
look. The legit
Which legit
call
call?
is the yes. Colin Johnson was on that short team 2001. He was on that team. He the one that threw that reverse pass down the field. He was
Mm-hmm.
on that team. The legit call, first of all, was the aiding the runner. That's a legit call. Okay, aiding the runner. Okay, wait. Your turn. I will let you speak. The aiding the runner. Because what he gonna say is a newspaper guy had the camera. You said all that. I got the video right there when it happened. When Daniel Sams is under the center and your running back come right behind and push him. All right. So flag on them. The very next play, yes, the refs missed a huge face mask for Salmon. They missed it big time. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they did. It's just the fact that you got a star player coming this way, and Daniel Sams going that way, and they crossed, and he grabbed. That's how it looked. Whoever was the photographer for the Times Picayune, give that boy Emmy because he caught it. He caught the
Yes, he
whole
did.
face mask on the cover of the Sports Edition. They missed the face mask. They did. Do I think it was like legit cheating? I don't.
Big
But
shout out.
BK thinks there was no aid in the runner.
Big
Go ahead,
shout
BK.
out going to Robert O'Shields. He had the video close up of both plays, and he needs to get an Emmy for that too. Shout out to Robert O'Shields, because I'm telling you, when he showed me that on his camera the next week in the Dome, and I'm like, oh my God. Now, for one, the aid and the runner, yeah, so that's the rule. But they don't call it 90% of the time.
So they broke
That
the
late in
rule.
the game?
They called.
They don't call it 90% of the time. My thing is this. Hold on. My thing is this. If you're going to call something that's consistent. Don't call something out of nowhere.
What do they call it? Where were they from? What do they call it?
That's just me. But I'm saying, but you, I'm glad you recognize the next play was obvious. I'm gonna give you an instance of 2 instances right quick of bad calls and things kind of flipped. One bad call I covered. It was Hanville and O'Perry Walker, and Emmanuel Powell was the coach. It was a very intense game that went to overtime at Berman, and then all of a sudden, Hanville was driving. And I think it was the second overtime. O'Perry Walker scored. They took the lead. Now Hanville was driving. They tried to get to the goal line. The running back for Hanville fumbled the football. He fumbled it before he got to the goal line. And then all of a sudden, O'Perry Walker recovered. It should have been Walker. Ball game over. The officials said no. They said Hanville had possession. And the next play, they scored the touchdown to win the ball game. And I was like, and I'm like, I couldn't even believe it myself because, and that was just like, come on now. And then on top of that, Emmanuel Powell was just livid. And he even talked about it in the interview. So it was just that bad. Now, I think that flipped the script. St. Aug, Brother Martin. That was actually Al Jones's last year as the coach. That time, it was a 35-7 game, Brother Martin. And the way it was looking, Brother Martin was, and I hate to say it, no knocking Brother Martin. Brother Martin was getting almost all the calls. And as Coach Al Jones was so livid and everything, Al Jones got ejected. Why St. Aug went on a 35-0 run late in the third quarter to the fourth to come back to win 42-35 in one of the biggest comebacks I've ever seen in a high school game. And I wasn't really covering that. I was being a fan that night. My wife was with me. God bless her. She was with me that night. And you talking about my St. Aug. There were moments as an alumnus that, and at the same time, as part of the game with officiating. But at the same time, there were times at St. Aug, we've been freaking robbed. But we just knew right then and there. I always learn from the coaches. You got to go take what you want. They ain't gonna give it to you. Go take what you want. And that's what St. Aug did that night. And I went up there, and even Coach Al Jones was in the stands watching, and he see him, and I dapped them all, and I was like, "We St. Aug, we come take what we want," and that's what we did. That's what St. Aug did that night. That was a great night of resilience that a team can overcome calls and then some to win a ball game.
Most definitely. Everyone, that concludes our show for tonight. We are back Wednesday night, 8:00 p.m. with former Tulane and Archbishop Shaw wide receiver Terrell Harris. He is our special guest on Wednesday as we get a start to Football Legends Month here on the Hash It Out show. For my 2 good friends, VK Jones and George Peppers.
We're 2 months away.
And also, a special thank you to the one and only Mr. Hello Somebody, Marlon Favorite. I'm JB, your sports guy. We'll see y'all Wednesday. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all take care.